The first thing that caught my attention wasn't the colorful streamers fluttering across the fence. It wasn't the carefully arranged table sitting beneath the old maple tree. It wasn't even the 6 empty chairs waiting for guests who clearly weren't coming. It was the birthday cake. 31 tiny candles had already been pressed into the frosting, standing perfectly straight, ready to be lit. Everything looked prepared with incredible care, yet the backyard felt painfully silent. Standing beside the table was my next door neighbor, Olivia Carter. She wore a light blue summer dress, her hands folded in front of her, forcing a smile at a celebration that nobody else had shown up for. I stopped in the middle of carrying a bag of yard clippings to the trash bin. For a few seconds, I simply stared. My name is Ethan Brooks. I was 33 years old, worked as a home renovation contractor, and spent most of my time raising my 6-year-old son, Noah. After my divorce 3 years earlier, life had taught me to mind my own business. Broken fences, I could fix those. Leaky roofs, no problem. Someone quietly pretending their heart wasn't breaking. That felt like something no toolbox could repair. At least, that's what I believed. For about 5 seconds. Dad, Noah burst through the back door wearing his dinosaur pajamas and superhero cape at the same time. Behind him raced our Labrador, Cooper, who considered every backyard in the neighborhood part of his personal kingdom. Noah squeezed between the wooden fence rails. Why is Miss Olivia having a birthday all by herself? Across the yard, Olivia slowly turned toward us. For just a split second, I saw sadness on her face before she covered it with a practiced smile. Oh, hi, Ethan. She waved politely. Hi, Noah. Her cheerful voice sounded rehearsed, almost like she had spent the last hour pretending everything was perfectly fine. Olivia had moved into the white cottage next door about 7 months earlier. She worked as a librarian at the local community library and spent weekends restoring old wooden furniture in her garage. Whenever Noah wandered over asking endless questions, she answered every single one with genuine patience. She remembered birthdays. She baked cookies for neighbors. She even made tiny bird feeders that now hung from nearly every tree on our street. She was the kind of person who always remembered everyone else. Apparently, no one had remembered her. Noah looked back at me. Where are her friends? Olivia answered before I could. They're probably just running a little late. The words sounded convincing. The silence behind them didn't. A paper napkin drifted off the table and landed in the grass. Nobody moved to pick it up. Cooper let out a quiet whine while staring at Olivia. Even he seemed to understand something wasn't right. I looked across the backyard again. Fresh lemonade sat sweating in a glass pitcher. Little flower arrangements decorated every place setting. Wrapped gifts rested beneath the table. Music played softly from a small speaker. This hadn't been thrown together at the last minute. Someone had spent days imagining this evening. Someone had believed people would come. Without really thinking, I set the trash bag on the ground. Noah, I said. Go put your sneakers on. His eyes widened. Are we going over there? Olivia immediately shook her head. Ethan, really, you don't have to. I know. Those 2 words seemed to surprise her more than anything else. A minute later, Noah came running back wearing one sneaker properly tied and the other completely untied. Cooper bolted ahead before either of us reached the gate. Olivia stood awkwardly near the table as we walked into her backyard. Up close, it became impossible to ignore what distance had hidden. Her mascara had smudged beneath one eye. The corners of her lipstick had faded where she'd been nervously biting her lips. She kept smoothing wrinkles from her dress even though there weren't any. Cooper walked straight to her, leaned his head against her hand, and refused to move. I think he likes you. Olivia laughed quietly. He likes anyone who might accidentally feed him. I heard that, I said. He strongly disagrees. Noah reached into his pocket and pulled out a tiny white daisy he'd picked somewhere along the way. Happy birthday. Olivia blinked. For me? It's from both of us, Noah said proudly. Cooper wanted to carry it, but he would have eaten it. That tiny joke finally broke through the sadness. Olivia laughed, a real laugh this time. She accepted the flower as though Noah had handed her something priceless. Thank you. I love it. I rubbed the back of my neck. I hope we're not interrupting anything. She looked around at the empty chairs before answering with a small smile. I don't think you are. Cooper had already started investigating the unopened gift bags beneath the table. Your dog is stealing my birthday presents. He prefers to think of himself as quality control. She laughed again. Better this time. Warmer. Noah suddenly pointed toward the cake. You can't have birthday candles without singing. Olivia looked at him. Is that an official rule? He nodded seriously. The biggest one. I found a box of matches beside the lemonade pitcher. Well, I smiled. I guess we'd better follow birthday law. As I leaned forward to light the candles, a gentle breeze kept blowing the flame out. Without saying anything, Olivia stepped beside me and shielded the match with both hands. For the briefest moment, our shoulders touched. Neither of us moved away. The final candle finally caught. 31 little flames glowed across the cake, reflecting in her eyes. Noah climbed onto a chair like he was directing an orchestra. I started singing. Poorly. Noah sang louder than both of us combined. Cooper barked after every line, as if he had rehearsed for this exact performance. Halfway through the song, Olivia stopped looking at the candles. Instead, she was looking at me, and for reasons I couldn't explain. I suddenly felt like this quiet little backyard was about to change both of our lives. The last note of our off-key birthday song faded into the warm evening air. For a heartbeat, everything felt lighter. Olivia smiled as she closed her eyes, took one slow breath, and blew out every candle in a single try. Noah clapped so enthusiastically that Cooper started barking again, convinced something exciting had happened. That counts, Noah announced proudly. You get one birthday wish. Olivia looked at him and smiled. I already think it's starting to come true. Before I could ask what she meant, her phone vibrated on the patio table. The bright screen lit up beside the untouched gift bags. She glanced down automatically. The smile disappeared. I wasn't trying to read her message, but the first sentence was impossible to miss. We're so sorry. We completely forgot tonight. Olivia locked the screen almost immediately. She lowered her eyes toward the grass, letting out a quiet laugh that sounded nothing like laughter. I guess that's everyone, she whispered. Noah tilted his head. Did your friends get lost? She forced another smile. I think they just got busy. Children accepted simple answers. Adults heard the ones left unsaid. Trying to change the subject, I reached for the cake knife. Well, birthday law also says cake can't sit here forever. She raised an eyebrow. I don't remember that rule. I may have added a few amendments. Convenient. I specialize in convenience, she chuckled, and I began cutting the cake into generous slices. Noah immediately requested the biggest one. Growing boys need extra frosting. You've been saying that since breakfast. I laughed. It's still true. We settled around the table as if the empty chairs didn't exist. For a while, we talked about ordinary things. Noah proudly explained how he'd recently learned to ride his bike without training wheels. Olivia shared funny stories about children who visited the library asking impossible questions. One little girl asked if dragons needed library cards. She said, "What did you tell her?" I asked. I told her only if they wanted to borrow books. Noah looked completely serious. That sounds fair. We laughed together. For the first time since I'd walked through the gate, the backyard actually felt like a birthday party. Not a big one. Just a real one. When Noah finished his cake, he grabbed a handful of colored napkins and a marker from the table. I'm making you a birthday card. He hurried toward the porch steps, Cooper following close behind. That left Olivia and me sitting alone. A gentle breeze swayed the lanterns overhead. Neither of us spoke for several seconds. Finally, she sighed. I invited 12 people. I looked at her. I started planning this almost a month ago. She gave a small shrug that fooled absolutely nobody. Everyone said they were coming. Her fingers slowly traced the edge of her paper plate. My cousin asked if she could bring her fiancé. My coworkers wanted to know what kind of cake I ordered. My college roommate even reminded me not to forget candles. She laughed softly. I guess I should have realized something was wrong When everyone stopped replying this afternoon, I leaned back in my chair. You were excited? I was. I kept checking the weather forecast because I didn't want it to rain. She looked around at the decorations. I ironed this dress. I made fresh lemonade this morning. I even rearranged my flower beds because I thought they'd look nicer in pictures. Her voice became quieter with every sentence. And then 6 o'clock came. She swallowed. Then 6:30. Then 7. She stared at the empty chairs. I kept thinking, maybe traffic. Maybe someone forgot the address. Maybe they'd all arrive together. She smiled without happiness. It's embarrassing how long I kept believing that. I shook my head. No. She looked up. It's not embarrassing. It feels like it. It shouldn't. She studied my face for a moment. You know what's strange? What? I wasn't even upset about turning 31. I was excited because I thought I'd spend tonight with people I cared about. I nodded slowly. So this isn't about a birthday. She blinked. No. It's about realizing you mattered less to them than they mattered to you. The words hung between us. She looked away before I saw tears gathering in her eyes. I've been telling myself all evening that I was overreacting. You weren't. They probably have good reasons. Maybe. But good reasons don't make empty chairs hurt less. She laughed quietly through a shaky breath. You always know what to say. Not even close. I'm usually terrible at this. Really. I fix kitchens. I replace broken cabinets. I've rebooted entire living rooms. I smiled faintly. But people? I usually have no idea what I'm doing. Olivia turned toward me. Funny. What? You seem to be doing just fine. For a second neither of us spoke. The evening had become surprisingly peaceful. Noah's voice drifted across the yard as he argued with Cooper about artistic choices for the birthday card. The smell of vanilla cake still lingered in the air. I found myself studying Olivia without meaning to. The way loose strands of chestnut hair moved in the breeze. The tiny freckles across her nose. The tiredness she kept trying to hide behind polite smiles. She caught me looking. What? I hesitated. Then decided honesty was easier than pretending. I've noticed you for a while. Her eyebrows lifted slightly. You have, I nodded. I noticed how you wave at every neighbor when you leave for work. The way you carry stacks of books that are obviously too heavy. The little bird feeders you made for half the street. And every Saturday morning? She smiled. What about Saturday mornings? You sing. Her cheeks turned pink. I do not. You absolutely do. Barely. I've heard enough to recognize the songs. She laughed, covering her face for a second. Oh no. I thought nobody could hear me. I never told you because I didn't want you to stop. She looked at me differently then. Not with gratitude. Not with embarrassment. Just curiosity. As though she was seeing me for the very first time. And before either of us could think of something else to say, Noah came running back toward the table, holding a folded birthday card above his head. You have to open this right now, he shouted. It's the best one I've ever made. Olivia smiled through eyes that were still slightly watery. I have a feeling you're right. Olivia carefully unfolded Noah's birthday card as though it were something far more valuable than paper. On the front, written in oversized, uneven letters, were the words, Best birthday ever. Inside, Noah had drawn 4 stick figures standing around a giant birthday cake. One was me. One was Olivia. The 4th was Cooper, somehow wearing what looked like a superhero cape. Above the drawing, Noah had written, You weren't alone because we came. For a moment, Olivia didn't say anything. She simply stared at the card. Then her shoulders trembled. She pressed her lips together, trying to stay composed. It didn't work. A tear slipped down her cheek. Then another. Oh no, No whispered, suddenly worried. Did I spell something wrong? Olivia quickly shook her head. No, sweetheart. She knelt in front of him, holding the card against her chest. You made today so much better. Noah wrapped his little arms around her without another word. She hugged him tightly, laughing through tears. Watching them, something shifted inside me. 3 years after my divorce, I'd convinced myself that keeping life simple was the safest way to protect Noah and myself. Work, home, school, Repeat no unnecessary risks. No complicated relationships. No chance of getting hurt again. But standing in that quiet backyard, watching Olivia cry because a 6-year-old had reminded her she mattered, those walls I'd spent years building suddenly felt unnecessary. Cooper wandered over and leaned against Olivia's side, demanding his share of the emotional moment. She laughed. I think your dog believes he's a therapist. He charges in tennis balls. That's expensive. It is these days. She smiled up at me. A genuine smile this time. The kind that reached her eyes. Noah suddenly yawned so dramatically that even Cooper looked concerned. I think somebody's running out of birthday energy, I teased. I'm not sleepy. He yawned again before finishing the sentence. Olivia laughed. I've worked around children long enough to recognize surrender. Noah crossed his arms. I'm just resting my face. Of course you are. The lanterns above us slowly flickered as evening settled over the neighborhood. The sky had turned shades of orange and deep purple. I helped Olivia gather the paper plates while Noah chased Cooper across the grass. For a while we worked in comfortable silence. Finally she spoke. Can I tell you something? Always. She hesitated before answering. I almost canceled everything this afternoon. What changed your mind? I kept thinking. She folded another napkin. What if everyone actually came? Her smile faded. I didn't want to be the person who gave up too early. I understood that feeling better than I cared to admit. When my marriage ended, I said quietly, I kept pretending everything could still be fixed. She looked at me. How long? Longer than I should have. I shrugged. Sometimes hope hangs around even after common sense packs its bags. She smiled sadly. That's exactly how today felt. Neither of us spoke for several moments. The silence wasn't awkward anymore. It felt easy, comfortable. Olivia glanced toward Noah. He's a wonderful little boy. He keeps me honest. It adores you. I smiled. Some days he also thinks I'm the most embarrassing person alive. That comes with the job description. We both laughed. Then she looked back at me. You know? I've noticed something. Oh, you always seem like you're carrying more than groceries when you come home. I blinked. What do you mean? You smile. She paused. But your eyes don't. Nobody had ever described me that accurately. I looked down at the wooden deck. My ex-wife moved across the country last year. Olivia stayed quiet. She didn't interrupt. She simply listened. No sees her during holidays. She loves him. She's just happier somewhere else. And I spent a long time wondering whether I failed both of them. Her expression softened. I don't think you did. Why? Because I've watched you. I looked up. You've watched me. She nodded. I've seen you teaching Noah to ride his bike. I've watched you fix his science projects. You cheer louder than anyone at his soccer games. She smiled warmly. You don't look like a man who's failing. Her words settled somewhere deep inside me. I hadn't realized how badly I needed to hear them. Before I could answer, Noah came jogging back over. I'm hungry again. I laughed. You just had 2 slices of cake. That was dessert. So now I need dinner. Olivia covered her mouth to hide another laugh. I like his logic. It's dangerous. Noah looked at Olivia. Do you like pancakes? She nodded. I love pancakes. My dad makes them every Saturday. I cleared my throat. They're average. They're awesome, Noah corrected. Then he looked between us with the complete lack of subtlety only children possess. You should come sometime. Olivia blinked. Oh, yeah. You could help Dad stop burning the first one. I do not burn the first one. You burned 2 last week. They were slightly overcooked. They were black. Olivia laughed so hard she had to grab the edge of the table. I couldn't help laughing too. It had been a long time since my house had felt full of that kind of laughter. Eventually Noah wandered off again to throw a tennis ball for Cooper. The yard grew quiet. Olivia looked toward the fading sunset. You know what the strange part is? What? When I woke up this morning, I thought today was going to prove how many people loved me. She looked back at me. Instead, it showed me exactly who actually cared. She met my eyes. And somehow, I think that's better. I smiled. I'd say birthday law worked out pretty well after all. She laughed softly. I guess it did. For a long moment, neither of us looked away. The evening air felt warmer than it had any right to. It wasn't the decorations, or the cake, or the lanterns. It was the feeling that two strangers who had spent months waving politely across a fence had finally stopped, pretending they didn't want to know each other. And neither of us realized it yet. But that quiet conversation in an almost empty backyard was becoming the beginning of a story neither of us had expected. By the time we finished cleaning up the table, the neighborhood had grown quiet. The last streaks of sunlight had disappeared, leaving only the soft glow of the paper lanterns hanging above the patio. Noah was stretched out on the porch swing with Cooper curled beside him. He insisted he wasn't tired. 5 minutes later, he was asleep. Olivia smiled as she looked at him. I've never seen anyone fall asleep that fast. It's one of his hidden talents. She laughed. I think he wore himself out making sure my birthday wasn't a disaster. I looked around the backyard. The empty chairs no longer stood out. The decorations didn't seem lonely anymore. Somehow, 3 people and 1 overly friendly dog had managed to fill a space meant for a dozen guests. It's funny, Olivia said quietly, when everyone failed to show up. I thought this would become my worst birthday. She looked toward the sleeping little boy. No, I'm not so sure. I leaned against the wooden railing. I've learned something about bad days. Oh, they rarely stay bad once the right people show up. She looked at me for a long moment before lowering her eyes. I wish someone had told me that years ago. The breeze carried the faint scent of fresh, cut grass through the yard. Neither of us rushed to speak. It felt surprisingly comfortable just standing there. Finally, Olivia broke the silence. Can I ask you something? Of course. Why did you come over? I smiled. My son made the first suggestion. And the second. I looked toward the fence separating our homes. I guess I couldn't pretend I hadn't seen you. She folded her arms loosely. Most people would have. Maybe. But it would have bothered me all night. She nodded slowly. I've spent a lot of my life pretending I was okay. I noticed. Her eyebrows lifted. You did. You smiled before your eyes had the chance to. She let out a quiet laugh. I didn't realize it was that obvious. It wasn't. I've just gotten pretty good at recognizing fake smiles. Her expression softened. Were yours fake too? I thought about the question longer than expected. Sometimes, she didn't ask why. She simply waited. My divorce changed me. I stared at the lantern swaying overhead. I stopped believing that happy moments lasted. So I started keeping people at a safe distance. She nodded gently. That sounds lonely. It was, but it also felt safer. And now, I looked at her. I'm starting to wonder if safe and lonely became the same thing. She smiled without saying anything. For some reason, that smile said enough. Cooper suddenly wandered over and dropped a tennis ball at Olivia's feet. She picked it up. I think your dog disagrees with serious conversations. A believes every emotional breakthrough should end with fetch. She tossed the ball across the yard. Cooper sprinted after it like his life depended on it. Olivia laughed again. I've missed laughing like this. I looked at her. When was the last time you did? She thought for a moment. I honestly can't remember. That answer hit harder than I expected. Someone who spent every day helping children discover stories. Someone who baked cookies for neighbors. Someone who remembered everyone's birthdays. Had forgotten the last time she genuinely laughed. It didn't seem fair. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it. A few seconds later it buzzed again. Olivia noticed. You can answer it. It can wait. You don't know who it is. If it's important, they'll call twice. The phone rang almost immediately. I sighed. See? She smiled. I'll be right back. I answered as I stepped toward the side of the yard. It was my younger sister, Emma. She was checking to make sure Noah had made it home before bedtime. After reassuring her that everything was fine, I slipped the phone back into my pocket. When I turned around, Olivia was quietly gathering the birthday decorations. Hey. She looked up. You don't have to clean all this tonight? I know. Then why are you? She smiled faintly. Because if I leave it until morning, I'll remember what today almost became. I walked over beside her. Then let's finish together. She looked surprised. You've already done enough. I don't think so. Without another word, I started taking down the lanterns. She folded the tablecloth. Neither of us said much. The silence felt peaceful instead of awkward. As we worked, our hands reached for the same box at exactly the same time. Our fingers brushed. Neither of us pulled away immediately. She looked into my eyes. Yeah, so, I owe you. I shook my head. No, I do. You really don't. What if buying you breakfast makes us even? I smiled. That sounds suspiciously like you're asking me out. Her cheeks turned pink. I was trying to sound less obvious. I noticed. She laughed nervously. So, would you? I pretended to think about it. I'm not sure. She crossed her arms. Oh, I'll need more information. Like what? What time? She smiled. 9. We're. The little bakery on Maple Street. The one with the cinnamon rolls. The very one. I nodded slowly. I suppose I could make time for that? You drive a hard bargain, I've been told. She looked relieved. Actually relieved. As though asking had taken more courage than she'd expected. Just then Noah sleepily wandered over, rubbing his eyes. Are we going home?
Yeah.
Buddy. He yawned. Then looked at Olivia. Did you have a good birthday? She smiled at him with eyes that shimmered under the lantern light. I think. She paused. I had exactly the birthday I needed. Noah nodded, completely satisfied with that answer. As we reached the backyard gate, Olivia walked us over. The distance between our houses had never seemed so short. Tomorrow, she said. 9 o'clock. I'll be there. She hesitated for only a second before stepping closer. Then, gently, she kissed my cheek. It lasted only a moment, soft, careful, unexpected. When she stepped back, she smiled shyly. That's for showing up. For a second, I completely forgot how to speak. Finally, I managed a grin. I'll still expect breakfast. She laughed. Good. I picked Noah up before he fell asleep standing. Cooper trotted proudly beside us as we walked across the yard toward home. Just before going inside, I glanced back. Olivia was still standing beneath the last glowing lantern, watching us with the kind of smile that only appears after someone finally stops feeling invisible. And somehow, I had a feeling tomorrow morning wasn't going to be just breakfast. It was going to be the beginning of something neither of us had been brave enough to hope for. The next morning, I pulled into the parking lot of the little bakery on Maple Street nearly 20 minutes early. It was ridiculous. I knew it, yet there I was, sitting in my truck with a fresh haircut, wearing the only button-down shirt I owned that wasn't covered in paint stains. I checked the time again. 8:47. Relax, I muttered to myself. It's just breakfast. My own reflection in the rearview mirror didn't seem convinced. At exactly 8:58, I saw Olivia walking toward the bakery. She wore blue jeans, white sneakers, and a soft green sweater despite the warm weather. Her hair was loose over her shoulders, moving gently in the morning breeze. Without the birthday decorations and forced smile from the night before, she somehow looked even more beautiful. She spotted me through the windshield and smiled. A real smile. One that reached her eyes before anything else. I stepped out of the truck. You're early, she teased. I was checking traffic. She looked at the almost empty street. Very heavy traffic. I wanted to be prepared. She laughed. I like prepared. And you? I've been here for almost 2 minutes. So we're equally guilty. Together we walked inside. The bakery smelled of fresh coffee, warm cinnamon, and butter. After ordering 2 coffees, croissants, and a blueberry muffin we agreed to share, we found a quiet table beside the front window. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The conversation felt strangely different in daylight. Last night had been unexpected. Today was intentional. Olivia wrapped both hands around her coffee cup. I kept wondering if you'd actually come. I looked at her. I told you I would. I know. She smiled softly. I'm just not used to people keeping promises. Those words landed heavier than she probably intended. I try not to make promises I can't keep. I noticed. She took a sip of coffee before continuing. I almost canceled this morning. Why? I was worried last night only happened because you felt sorry for me. I shook my head immediately. It wasn't pity. She searched my face almost as if trying to catch me lying. What was it? I smiled. I've wanted to get to know you for months. Her eyebrows lifted. Seriously? You always looked busy? So did you? I figured you probably weren't interested. She laughed. I spent 6 months hoping you'd find an excuse to talk to me. I blinked. She nodded. I even baked extra cookies one Saturday hoping you'd stop by. I thought they were leftovers. They were strategically baked. That made both of us laugh. I leaned back in my chair. So we've both been terrible at this. It would seem so. Our food arrived, but neither of us rushed to eat. The conversation flowed naturally now. She told me about the children's reading programs she organized every summer and how one little boy insisted every pirate story should end with everyone becoming librarians. I shared stories about renovating old houses and the strange things I'd found hidden behind walls over the years. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. Several unread messages filled the display. The same people who hadn't come to her birthday were now apologizing. She quietly locked the phone without opening a single one. You don't want to answer. She shook her head. Not yet. I spent years responding to everyone immediately. And now, she smiled. No, I'm trying something new. What's that? Choosing myself first. I couldn't help smiling. I like that plan. She looked at me for a second before reaching across the table. Her fingertips rested lightly against my hand. I think meeting you helped me realize something. What? I've been trying so hard not to disappoint other people that I forgot what it felt like to stop disappointing myself. I slowly turned my hand over until our fingers naturally intertwined. Neither of us said anything. The silence felt peaceful, comfortable. Outside the bakery window, people walked past carrying shopping bags and coffee cups, completely unaware that my entire world had quietly shifted inside that little corner booth. Eventually, Olivia smiled. I should probably confess something. I'm listening. When Noah invited me over for pancakes yesterday, I really hoped he meant it. I laughed. He absolutely meant it. So, she tilted her head playfully. Should I expect an official invitation? I was actually planning one. Oh, tonight. She looked pleasantly surprised. Dinner, my place. Noah has already decided you make excellent company. And Cooper. He voted yes before anyone else. She laughed. I'd be honored. Just then my phone buzzed. It was Noah. I answered on speaker. Dad, everything okay? Buddy. When are you bringing Miss Olivia over? Olivia covered her mouth, trying not to laugh. I'm working on it. Good. I already told Cooper. The call ended a moment later. We both burst into laughter. I think your son is moving faster than we are, Olivia said. He usually does. When we finished breakfast, neither of us seemed eager to leave. Instead, we wandered slowly down Maple Street, stopping to admire flower displays outside local shops. The conversation never felt forced. It simply continued. At one point we reached the small park near the library. Olivia stopped beside a bench. Ethan. Yeah, she looked at me with an expression that was both nervous and hopeful. I don't want yesterday to become one of those moments people remember fondly and then slowly forget. It won't. How can you be sure? Because I'm not planning to disappear. She smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. I took one step closer. So, I've been thinking about that thank you kiss. Her cheeks immediately turned pink. Oh, I think it deserves a proper follow-up. She laughed softly. I was wondering when you'd mention it. For a brief second, neither of us moved. Then she closed the distance herself. This time, when we kissed, it wasn't quick or uncertain. It was gentle, warm. A quiet promise that whatever had begun across that backyard fence wasn't ending anytime soon. When we finally pulled apart, she smiled against my shoulder. I think this is going to be my favorite memory of turning 31. I smiled back. I have a feeling we're only getting started. That evening, Noah stood at the front window every few minutes, convinced looking outside would somehow make Olivia arrive faster. How much longer? He asked for what had to be the 10th time. I glanced at the oven clock. About 7 minutes. He sighed dramatically. That's basically forever. Cooper wandered to the door. tail wagging long before the doorbell rang. "You think she's here already?" Noah asked. Cooper barked once. "I guess that's a yes." A second later, the doorbell chimed. Noah practically sprinted across the living room. When I opened the door, Olivia stood there holding a small paper bag from the bakery. "I brought dessert," she said with a shy smile. "You really didn't have to." "I know."
She looked at Noah, but I wanted to, he grinned.
"I told Dad you'd come." "I told him too." Olivia laughed. The evening passed more naturally than either of us expected. We cooked homemade pancakes together, even though it was dinner, simply because Noah insisted breakfast tasted better after sunset. Olivia mixed the batter while Noah carefully counted blueberries into the bowl. Cooper supervised from beneath the kitchen table, hoping gravity would eventually become his best friend. When the first pancake came out slightly darker than the others, Noah pointed at me with a proud smile. "See, Dad always burns the first one. I prefer the term well-seasoned." Olivia laughed so hard she nearly dropped the spatula. Dinner turned into stories, jokes, and endless laughter. For the first time in years, my house didn't feel quiet. It felt alive. After we finished eating, Noah disappeared into his bedroom before returning with a small family photo. It showed just the three of us, me, him, and Cooper, taken nearly a year earlier. He handed it to Olivia. "I think next time you should be in it too." The room became very still. Olivia looked at the picture, then at Noah. "You'd want that." He nodded without hesitation. "Your family." I saw Olivia blink back tears. "So am I." Cooper seemed to announce with a happy bark. We all laughed, breaking the emotional silence. Later that evening, after Noah had fallen asleep on the couch halfway through a movie, Olivia and I stepped onto the back porch. The neighborhood was quiet. Stars filled the clear summer sky. She leaned against the railing beside me. "I've been thinking about yesterday." "The birthday." She nodded. "I spent so much time feeling hurt because the wrong people didn't show up." She smiled softly. "That I almost missed the people who actually did." I reached for her hand. "You weren't forgotten." "I know that now." She looked toward the fence separating our backyards. "It's funny. Yesterday that fence felt like a wall, and today," she smiled, "it feels like two homes that aren't really separate anymore." I squeezed her hand gently. "I like the sound of that." She rested her head against my shoulder. "So do I." The following weeks seemed to pass faster than either of us expected. Olivia became part of our Saturday pancake tradition. Noah insisted she read bedtime stories every Friday evening because, according to him, librarians make all the voices better. Cooper officially decided that whichever couch Olivia sat on automatically became his favorite place in the house. Life wasn't suddenly perfect. There were still difficult days. Sometimes Olivia questioned whether she was asking too much from people. Sometimes I caught myself pulling away whenever happiness started feeling too real. But every time one of us started retreating, the other reached first. One Saturday afternoon, almost a year after that lonely birthday, Noah looked at me while helping decorate our backyard with paper lanterns. "Do you think Miss Olivia will like this?" "I think she'll love it." This birthday was different. There were no expectations, no pressure, just the people Olivia genuinely wanted around her. Neighbors, a few close friends she'd chosen to keep, my sister, Noah, me. One long table stretched across both of our backyards with the gate between them standing wide open. Nothing separated our homes anymore. As the sun began to set, everyone gathered around the birthday cake. 32 candles flickered in the evening breeze. Before anyone started singing, Olivia quietly took my hand. "Come with me." She led me toward the old wooden fence, where we'd first noticed each other nearly a year earlier. She smiled as she looked across both yards. "Do you remember?" "I remember everything." "I thought this place would always remind me of being forgotten." She looked at our guests laughing together. "Now it reminds me of finding the people who truly stayed." I reached into my pocket. There was a small velvet ring box I'd been carrying all evening. Her eyes widened. "Ethan, I didn't fall in love with you because you needed someone that night." I gently opened the box. I fell in love with the woman who always cared for everyone else, even when nobody remembered to care for her. A tear rolled down her cheek. I've chosen you every single day since we walked through that gate. I smiled. And if you'll let me, I'd like to keep choosing you for the rest of my life. Olivia Carter, will you marry me? She covered her mouth as tears filled her eyes. Then she laughed. The same beautiful laugh I'd first heard after Noah handed her a tiny daisy. She nodded over and over. Yes. Of course. Yes. As I slipped the ring onto her finger, applause erupted behind us. Noah came running over first. So, does this mean Miss Olivia is staying forever? She wrapped him in the biggest hug. If you'll both have me. We'd already decided, Noah said proudly. Your family. Cooper barked excitedly before squeezing into the group hug, convinced every important moment required his participation. Everyone laughed. Standing there beneath glowing lanterns, surrounded by people who genuinely wanted to be there, I looked toward the fence where this story had begun. A year earlier, it had separated two lonely neighbors. Now the gate stood permanently open. Sometimes life doesn't change because hundreds of people show up. Sometimes it changes because one little boy asks an honest question. One neighbor decides to walk through a gate, and one forgotten birthday becomes the beginning of a love story neither of them ever saw coming.